I really want to talk about the Mo Ibrahim Fellowship to discuss key issues in Africa, and then they collaborate with the African Union Commission, they collaborate with AFDB, they collaborate with World Banks, and I'm currently in the Mo Ibrahim Governance Weekend. Hey guys, I decided I want to do a small vlog today to talk about the Mo Ibrahim Fellowship. I'm currently in Casablanca, Marrakech. You see, it's beautiful. And I'm currently in the Mo Ibrahim Governance Weekend. My first conference, but they do this every 2 years or so. This year is about financing Africa, but I really want to talk about the Mo Ibrahim Fellowship, which is a leadership fellowship. They have other fundings. I also want to talk about how I got in and where I work. I currently work for the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. I want to highlight a little bit about how I got in, how has it been, because it's been 10 months now, how I'm here, and what's next. So I applied to the Mo Ibrahim Fellowship Program, the Leadership Fellowship Program, in October of 2023. It takes about 6 months, about 9 months to process. And it's a fellowship that looks at potential leaders for Africa. And they place you in 3 institutions. You either get placed in the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, like myself, placed in the African Development Bank, or the International Trade Center, which is Geneva. And the AFDB is in Cote d'Ivoire. So you get spent 1 year where you work in the Executive Secretary Office or the Director, or for example in AFDB is the President, gaining the exposure and the shadowing of what it's like to be a leader in those institutions. Particularly they target African institutions, and you spend a year with a grant of $100,000. It's free, and you also get a $10,000 to just move in case you're not living in Ethiopia, or if you're not living in Cote d'Ivoire, if you're not living in Geneva. To be honest with you, in Cote d'Ivoire it takes you a little bit further. In Ethiopia it takes you way more, and Geneva is nothing because Geneva is expensive. So I've been doing this now for 10 months. I'm based in Addis Ababa. I have about 2 to 3 months left to my fellowship, and I've been working with the Executive Secretary. I got to learn about the multilateral system. So this is the system where you have the likes of the International Monetary Fund, the United Nations, the World Bank, these institutions that tend to mobilize money to them to then do a certain cause. So they're not quite NGO level, they're not non-governmental organizations, they're more international. And one thing common about those institutions is that they tend to have international policy law where they don't pay tax. If you're a worker of any of those multilateral organizations, you don't pay tax on your salary. And for me, so far, my experience has been working on research, but also practical sort of solutions towards applied research to action, supporting member states. One of the mandates of Economic Commission for Africa, which are called ECA, is to support member states in either research as a think tank, convening powers, convene them to make a decision, as well as supporting them with evidence. So one of the key things they do is bring all the ministers of finance and other related ministers to what they call the Conference of Ministers, the key flagship event, to discuss key issues in Africa. And then they collaborate with the African Union Commission, they collaborate with AFDB, they collaborate with World Banks to settle key issues in Africa. So for example, this year's issue has been about the financial architecture system, which is the system of which we operate where we get financing in Africa, and to try and find a way to reform it because it's not working for Africa. And this forum that I'm in now in Marrakech is looking exactly at that. It's looking at what is the financial gap in Africa in terms of development, and it's looking at the goals such as the Agenda 2063 from African Union Commission. It's looking at goals such as the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, and what is the gap between what we are right now and where we want to be in 2030 or 2063. And then asking where is the money, where we're going to get the money from. Or as we know as well in development at the moment, or if you don't know then you know now, that Trump has just cut aid, and US is one of the, I think the biggest contributor in many things, including humanitarian, security, development. So now that the US decided to pull out with its own prerogative, what are we doing as Africa, as other countries trying to support our development goals? So this forum, particularly this conference, is looking at that, and the whole weekend is discussing about, what do we have? Do we have tax reforms? Do we have to increase our domestic revenue mobilization? Do we need to look at how to reform our stock exchange market? So I've learned a lot, and I think my CV has really been pumped up by the experience working in UNECA, so as a Mo Ibrahim Fellow. Taking it forward, I'm going to rethink about how I think about my work in terms of UN, in terms of collaboration with different private sector. I've learned about leadership. I will do another video where I will talk in more detail of how to apply and how to get in. But it's just a short clip about my experience as a Mo Ibrahim Fellowship in 2024, experience in Marrakech in this Mo Ibrahim Governance Weekend Conference.